Hello, my name is Dave Woll, and I'm an analyst with the ARC Advisor Group. I'm here to talk to Bob Wojewodka from Lubrizol, and Bob is head of the Process Improvement program at Lubrizol. And we'll be discussing incident prediction and avoidance. Thank you for joining me, Bob.
Hi, Dave. Pleasure being here.
What do you see that the ERP and business people need to do to become easier to work with the operations people?
Yeah, I would actually classify that not only ERP or business people, but our MIS IT groups in general within Lubrizol, and perhaps other companies as well. I think traditionally IT groups really looking at and asking for people on what their needs were and collecting requirements. And then from that they built a data set or a cube within the ERP system or generating reports that were asked for, which is all very good and needed. But the dynamics that we see changing now in operations is we need to be much more responsive and more fluid. And I feel the IT organizations need to be building an environment that's more self-service for the operations base to come in and select what data they want, when they want it, how they want it, and instantly generate their own reports and go to advanced analytics, as opposed to putting together a requirement for something that needs to be developed, put in place, and to generate a report. Oftentimes the operations people don't know what they need until they need it, except for the mundane, routine types of metrics that are done for KPIs that churn out monthly or something like that. But for doing process improvement, troubleshooting, root cause analysis, it's very fluid. And I think the business, ERP, and the IT groups in general need to be able to adapting to creating environments to let people do it more self-service.
That makes a lot of sense because it makes the interaction much more effective.
That's correct.
A core part of your process is to gather data from different sources. Mm-hmm. What can different suppliers do to make it easier for you to gather data from these sources?
Well, I think you answered that yourself, Dave, actually with the key word easier. Suppliers, I feel, need to look beyond just their products and services and recognize that they don't provide everything that we need. The suppliers that we choose supply and service a certain niche that they're very good at, but we go beyond that. So they need to be opening up their systems more to allow information to come out of their applications and tool sets, as we own the data, and come out of their software systems that they put together as well, so we could marriage it however we want with other data, other systems, other applications. And anything that the suppliers could be doing to make that easier for us, everyone benefits from that, as opposed to being pigeonholed or trying to be dovetailed just into their toolkit.
What are the major challenges in applying online analytics to batch processes?
Batch, what's very similar to continuous. What our experience is, we're going down this path within Lubrizol, is actually the access, integration, and proper sequencing of the data to bring that together into a context that both people could understand and the applications where we're developing these models can understand. So it's bringing the disparate systems of data together into a context that it can relate to itself in the data structures that we need in order to be applying it. So it comes down to data. Data.
A big focus for you is the operator.
Correct.
Most operators are not familiar with accepting predictive inputs. How much of a challenge is that to get operators more comfortable with planning on dealing with something that hasn't occurred yet?
Yeah, it was a challenge initially, but one way to try and mitigate that is the approach of interfacing with the operators and talk their language. So instead of bringing down higher-end engineering terms or data analysis or statistical terms, that's irrelevant. It's to put things into a context and their language set that they understand. So by relating it to something that they're already doing on the operating unit and put it into the context of their terminology and their data makes it much easier to bring some of the advanced applications in because they could relate to it as a direct result.
Do you have enough experience yet to see how your technology and your information changes work processes for operators and other operating people?
Yeah, we've seen that already where we've been piloting this in applications over the past years and where we've integrated systems together like SAP for bringing down recipes to connect with the control systems for execution. It creates an environment where operators and engineers do think a little bit differently, and as a result of that, it comes back into the initial training for the operators themselves, but even for our control engineers, of how are the control systems being set up to begin with to capture the necessary and sufficient data to not only run the unit and to manufacture products safely, but also to capture the data and information we need to study the process for an ongoing unit.
Since you're learning more about the process and the results of manufacturing processes and control systems, does your research ever feed back into significant changes to the automation control strategy?
It does. In fact, we're actually trying to connect those dots even more by bringing the operations data back all the way up into even our chemical synthesis group, where products are being developed into glass beakers. And as we transition to like pilot plant, and especially our pilot plant operations, of how do we get on a common platform and common terminology as it relates to our manufacturing, execution, and control systems, so that as new products and new processes are coming down and we're issuing that coverage over to our plants, that is done in a context that the plants can understand relative to the control systems that they're setting up to run the unit. And then similarly for ongoing manufacturing, when we're doing troubleshooting or collecting information from the process on our expectations, or if we're doing process redesign, having that information flow back up into the pilot plant and in the R&D to try and have a better synergy between those groups. That's the direction that we're heading.
I would expect on an ongoing basis that the results of the work you do would feed into a continuous improvement operational excellence program?
I would call that. I mean, we put it under the banner within Lubrizol. We call it our operations management system. You know, but if you look at the pieces, parts of that, and what we're trying to accomplish, many would look at that and say, well, that's operational excellence. You know, goes by a lot of different terms. At the end of the day, we're trying to leverage people's knowledge, systems, application, technology, and really exploiting the information that's available in data for decision making in the light of uncertainty, because there's variation. So bringing variability and risk into it relative to making decisions for process improvement.
I would expect in the business that you're in, to some degree, you're influenced by the FDA and also by the PAT guidelines. Is that the case?
That is true. We have a wide variety of product lines within our corporation. Aspects of our manufacturing feed into the pharmaceutical industry, and what you mentioned obviously relates to that segment. We don't differentiate, though. The PAT guidelines are not new to us at all. I mean, PAT guidelines are basically using data and information, measurement, decision-making, variability to control product quality for the pharmaceutical industry. Same application is as if you're making soap or something else, you know, or additive that goes into an automobile engine, which is other aspects of our manufacturing process. Regulatory agencies do play a role, and we deal with that throughout the corporation. So from an FDA, you have the PAT requirements coming down, but like in the automotive industry, we got SAE requirements, we got oil guidelines that we have to meet, as regulations currently are increasing there for reducing emissions, improving fuel economy of cars. New regulations are constantly coming out with that. So we deal with it throughout the whole organization relative to also meeting regulatory requirements, which makes it a challenge, obviously. So we're keeping pace with the regulatory requirements, but also doing process improvement and redesign along the way, too, to basically improve product quality and also reduce costs within our manufacturing processes.
Of the benefits that you get from applying your technology and your research, are you able to order the size of those benefits, for example, improve quality, improve throughput, reduce variability?
What do you mean order? What do you mean when you say order these?
In terms of expected results, most significant through least significant?
Well, the answer to that is yes, but that's project dependent, because some projects that we do are focused solely on safety or safety improvement or emissions reduction and things like that. Others could be focused specifically on improving quality. And then obviously many of them are geared towards reducing time cycle. How can we make more batches or push more product more quickly? So we do process studies, process improvement to see if we could reduce a hold time by predictive analytics to predict an end of batch reaction more quickly. or reduce through process redesign some time cycle or temperature control and things like that. So it depends on the project, actually, Dave. Some are geared towards safety, some are geared towards time cycle or throughput, some are geared towards quality, and some are for all of them. So, and some of them we just have to do, like the regulatory. If you have to do something different to meet a regulatory requirement, well, you have to do something different to meet the requirement.
Bob, thanks for spending your time with me, and I really enjoyed it. I am Dave Woll, and I've been speaking with Bob Wojewodka from Lubrizol. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, the audience, for listening to us.